So can you guys please give a warm Rocky student welcome to Colton? Give it up.
Sweet. Well, I just want to say thank y'all for having me. I love speaking to y'all. So, I was born in 04. Looking around, I still feel like you guys were born in 04 and 03. Show of hands, like what year were you guys born in?
2009.
Okay, sick. I like that show of hands. Anyways, I just wanted to throw that in there. So I'm gonna my talk is kind of be set up like a book. So I'll start with the prologue, like kind of like the context to my life, so that you guys can understand my story. My mom and dad, they're divorced. They were split, so it's like they're technically not divorced, but I lived a divorced parent lifestyle. I have family in Alabama. I have 3 older half-siblings and 1 younger half-sibling in Alabama. So me and my dad would visit Alabama once in the summer and once in the winter every year. I'm in Colorado. When I was born in Alabama. My mom moved to Colorado. My dad followed her because we have family here. When I was 3, my mom started to work at a church, and that was the church that Matt worked at before he came here. And so that means I was super involved in the youth group, super involved in all that. So that's a huge part of my life. Kind of chapter 1, we'll start with just my life with divorced parents. It was just kind of, if you guys have divorced parents, you kind of know what it's like. I had 50-50 custody, or they had 50-50 custody, so it was 1 week at my mom's, 1 week at my dad's. It was kind of split time. Kind of sucked. Whenever I had something that I wanted both the parents to be at, only one of them could come, and then it kind of turned into a he said, she said type of thing every other week. So not the best, but it's all I knew, so I never really thought it was bad. And that was my life until 8th grade. I decided I wanted to move to Alabama because I had family there, and at the time I was like, I love visiting, so I just want to move there because, why, if I love visiting, why would it be different if I moved there? But my mom was like, I don't really want you to, so that turned into a whole legal thing. My mom and dad lawyered up, and then they got a mediator, and it just kind of turned into this whole thing. But long story short, my dad got full custody, and the 3rd week into my freshman year of high school, we moved to Alabama. And so this is like chapter 2, moving to Alabama. If you guys have moved states or moved schools, you'd know that like you don't really know anyone. I knew 3 people in the entire high school, and they were my nieces and nephews that were about the same age as me. So it was really hard for me to make new friends and to get into the right crowd. And I got into the wrong crowd my freshman year, and I started going to parties and just doing a bunch of stuff that I now kind of regret. But at the time, I thought it was the coolest thing ever, going to parties, getting blackout drunk. So in November, my mom invited me to a winter camp that Matt was hosting. And I was like, why not? I get to go to this trip for free. And I came back to Colorado, went on that weekend trip, and I realized that I didn't really have any friends in Alabama. And I had a huge, really good God-given community in Colorado. And so that was really hard going back to Alabama, kind of realizing like, dang, none of these people really like me. They just kind of tolerate me. And that kind of turned into them like bullying me. And I just kind of hated it moving back to Alabama. But because I missed so many days from school, and it was like halfway through the semester, I couldn't leave or else I'd fail freshman year. So I kind of had to stay for an extra 2 months. But after that, I moved back to Colorado in January of 2019. And I moved back and life was sick. I reconnected with my church, with youth group. I reconnected with my old friends at high school. And I was just kind of like this is good. Like I'm enjoying life. My dad, however, stayed in Alabama because of a work contract that he had. So I was living with my mom full time. I'll get to that a little bit later. In March of 2019, I went to Puerto Penasco with Matt on a mission trip to Mexico. And that was like probably top 3 trips in my entire life. It was sick. The community that I had that was really good was just like strengthened, and it was deepened, and it was just like life is amazing. I have so many good friends. I love God. This is epic. Until April 14th, I get a text from someone in Alabama that this girl named Caroline committed suicide. And that was really rough for me to hear because after hearing that, I kind of remembered who she was, and I kind of realized that she was my only real friend that I had in Alabama. She actually cared about my life. She cared about how I was doing, and she kind of was just a really good person to me, and I kind of really took her for granted. And I just felt super guilty because of that. And it wasn't the type of guilt of like, oh, I should have done something, I should have been there for her. It was a type of guilt, for me, it was like, I'm like part of the reason. It wasn't even like a, dang, I should have been there for her. It was like, I feel like I was the reason. So yeah, that was in April of 2019. Going into summer of 2019, that kind of just compounded and built, like, just got worse and worse. And the guilt kind of turned into depression, and the depression kind of manifested this anxiety. And then all three of those things combined really made me question why I was alive. And that just spiraled until I just felt super alone. And in August, I just could not cope with my thoughts of wanting to end my own life. And I attempted to take my own life in August. I physically could not do it. I won't really get into it, but God, I believe, physically stopped me. So obviously I'm here. And because of that, my mom and me kind of decided that I should go to a mental hospital because I wasn't safe alone. And I can't be monitored 24/7 by my mom. So she sent me to this place called Centennial Peaks. It's a mental hospital in Louisville. Looking back on it, it was probably one of the most peaceful times of my entire life. Yeah, it was, in the moment, I hated it. I was like, I don't want to be here. But looking back, I was like, that was really peaceful for me, just kind of being alone by myself and being able to think for once. I didn't have that anxiety that I used to have when I was out. Also, through that, I was there for 5 days. And throughout those 5 days, there's 3 people that could come into this, like, to where I was sleeping, like where I was staying. And normally you can't do that. You can only have visitors for lunch. But these 3 people, one of them was Matt. God, like, physically and literally opened doors for them to come into this space and show up for me in a way that no one else had. None of the other patients had someone that could just come in there and visit with them. So that was great. I really saw God open the doors for them, and I felt God's love through Matt and the 2 other people that came. My dad also decided to move back because he was like, I can't be in Alabama if you're having all these thoughts and like in this horrible state that you're in. So he moved back in October of 2019. So yeah, after getting out of Centennial Peaks, I went back to school, and from April to September, it was all downhill. But after getting out in September, I started to see like slight improvement. I started to be able to be alone in my room for a little bit longer than I normally could. I could sleep without wanting to, take my life. And I could go to school and like actually function and not have anxiety attacks all the time. I believe that this was because of youth group and my leaders at youth group, and because of therapy. So yeah, those are all things that God, I believe, gave to me to help me get out of that. In March of 2020, I'm sure you all know, COVID happened. It wasn't that bad for me though. I really enjoyed it. Like Matt mentioned, I just play video games all the time. School was super easy. So I kind of reminisce on COVID. I'm sorry if your experience is different than mine, but I look back fondly at COVID. Not much really happened. Junior year, I just kind of messed around. I got my license junior year. I moved in with my dad October of 2020. So yeah, he moved back in 2019, but I didn't move in with him until 2020. So now I'm living with him full time. Yeah, junior year was sick. Senior year was also sick. I decided to take a gap year after senior year because I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I also missed the deadline to register for college, so I kind of was forced to take a gap year. In the gap year, I became a volunteer leader at a youth group, the youth group that I went to, and I was a valet, a mechanic, and I worked at Jimmy John's throughout that gap year just to save money and just to kind of experience life. Yeah, so life was pretty good since I'd say 2020-ish. And then in 2023 is kind of where the 3rd chapter starts, or the 4th. I don't know what chapter I'm on anymore. My dad was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer June 22nd of 2023. It was prostate cancer. The doctors told him that he has less than 6 months if he doesn't take this treatment, but if he does do the treatment, he has 1 to 3 years. That was a lie. In July, he took the treatment. In July, he said he was in so much pain that he could not stay in Colorado anymore. He was going to be buried in Alabama. So if he waited any longer, the trip to Alabama would be too painful. So yeah, last week of July, he moved to Alabama. The first week of August, I booked a flight and not a return flight to be with him. So yeah, that's a whole other story of what happened in Alabama, but about a month later, he passed away on 9/11/2023. And that was really rough for me. I've been living with him for 3 years now, and I talk to him every day of my life. He'd call me every day if I wasn't with him. So I came back to Colorado after he passed, and I would explain it as I just kind of existed. I don't want to say like I lived, I just kind of existed for a couple weeks. I say that because I forgot to tell people that my dad passed away and that I'm back. Because I told all these people like, oh, I'm going to Alabama, my dad has cancer, but about a week into it, I realized like I told 3 people that I actually am back and that my dad passed. So all these people that I told didn't know. But eventually I got really bored and I was like, I had this fire of like, I need to do something. Can't just like exist anymore. I kind of need to get back in the saddle. And I became a leader again, probably around the last week of September of 2023. I talked to Alan. He's the youth director at the church that I lead at. And I talked to him about becoming the intern. And I became the intern in November of 2023. And it was my favorite job. But at the same time, that was about 2 months after my dad passed. So I'm trying to figure out life of this like epic job. I want to go into ministry. I'm having a lot of fun. But I go home and then I'm like, I don't know what living looks like anymore because I only have a mom. I don't have my dad anymore. So that was really hard for me. But at the same time, half my day was epic because I was the intern at a church. And it was awesome. That was my life for about November till May. In May, the internship ended, and God decided that I should go to South Africa for prison ministry. It's this trip that my church does like every year for the college students, and I just found myself talking to the director of the college ministry, and all of a sudden, I just blurted out these words of like, can I go on this prison ministry trip? I didn't really plan on it, but God did, and I went on the mission trip. That was for 2 months, June and July. Came back this August, and now I'm in school. And yeah, it's kind of been easy since my dad has passed, but yeah, I just kind of look back and it's like I don't really know how all this happened, but at the same time, it's like I do understand how it happened, but it's just I try and think about it and explain it, and it just doesn't make sense. I think that's just God kind of like doing these things in my life, and I don't really have control over it. So that's kind of the end of, I caught you up to speed of my story. So now I'm going to explain why I want to go into ministry, why I want to pursue Jesus, even after my life, I think, wasn't the best. After Caroline and my dad, and even my own battle with depression and suicidal thoughts. I just kind of reminisced and like thought about it. And church and youth group and therapy have been my biggest support group through all this. And also throughout my life, church has been like the only consistency, because my mom worked at a church when I was like 2 or 3, and I'm still attending that same church. Whereas I was a valet for a dealership, that didn't work out. I was a mechanic, I didn't like that. I don't really like Jimmy John's, I don't want to go into Jimmy John's. But throughout this time, church has been the only consistency. And like I said earlier, I believe that God is the reason why I'm still here. I don't really want to talk about it too much, but it's just, the best way I can explain it is like I physically was stopped by God, and that's why I'm here. Going back to Centennial Peaks, I saw and felt God's love through Matt, Kyle, and Jane, the 3 people that God physically opened doors for, and just like God poured his love through them into me. And that was a huge part of my story. And through prayer, therapy, and church, I got better and kind of like came out of this slump of just like my life and of me wanting it to end. And at the end of the day, I look back at everything and it's like God has kept providing for me. He provided my support group, my jobs. He provided like financials. I could go on and on about what God has done for my life. And it's just like he just keeps providing when I ask for him through prayer. So now we're at the end of the talk, and you might be like, that's an epic story, bro, but like, what do you want me to do with this? So I have 2 takeaways that I want you to walk away with. I want you to find and meet someone who loves Jesus because they would love to meet with you and be there for you like my leaders were there for me. Life sucks. I'm not going to try and hide that. I know I probably don't have to sugarcoat it for y'all. Life isn't always easy. It's not always good. But life can be good through people who want to be there for you. Find and meet with someone. There's adults everywhere, leaders. They're great leaders. And if you can't think of anyone off the top of your head, come to me or Matt, and we can help you. And the second one is if you need or want help, please get it. I love therapy. I'm going to therapy currently. I hate that there's a stigma around it because it's like the best thing in my life. And I feel like I learned so much through it, and it just sucks that like, oh, I need help. I don't want to go to therapy because there's a stigma. Please get help if you need it or if you want it. And if you don't know where to start or like where to look or how to get it, again, talk to a leader, talk to me or Matt, and yeah, they can help you. That's kind of all I got. I'm going to pray myself out, and I'm just going to pray over y'all really quick. So, God, thank you so much for this opportunity that I have to speak. I just thank you for all these students that listen to me. I don't know if what I said resonated with them, but that's your job, not mine. Yeah, I just pray that their weeks and their months and the rest of their lives are great. And I pray that you just keep showing up for them, keep providing for them. And yeah, in your name we pray. Amen.